Greetings. Welcome to a lovely boiling hot afternoon in the loft. I'm Jim. Well, thank you for joining me. We shall see where this goes, but over there on the desk, well, let's see if I can get it in the room. There is a network I'm setting up for a video. So I thought, why not? I haven't been on here for a couple of weeks, I don't think, unfortunately. It's time to get things set up and see what we can do, and to come and say hello to everybody again, and to try and get some rhythm back into this, he says. So, yes, just to make the time go a bit faster, I thought I'd do this whilst catching up with people as well. So, without further ado, let's get underway. You will have to excuse me, it's boiling here. It's been a lovely sunny day. I've been sat outside for a little bit. It's warm, it's warm, it's warm. I've got fans running up here. I've turned the main extractor off for the time being because it was just too damn noisy. And I just need to check a few things over at the moment. That is wrong. That would be why that is not working. I think. He says. Just make sure that is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Yep. That's correct. It's hot. The extractor is there and it's not running. I've got that fan running over there. It's rather warm. But for some unknown reason, why isn't that working? Let's have a look at some advanced networking settings. More adaptive network options. I don't think I've got it on a static address. As much as I'd love to get AC up here, what I need to do is get the probably get the roof lined with insulation just to keep some of the heat out. The problem is it's having it so that it can extract it in the winter, because obviously I don't want to keep the heat in. No, that's fine. It's not just being slow to boot for the time being. Oh, is it? Is it? That. Maybe. That will be why. I think. More than likely. We'll find out in a second when I get an IP address. Give me an IP address. I'll switch over to my screen in a bit once I've finished messing around with network stuff. Okay, begin again. And the question is, where did I put my reset rodder? Because I'm going to need that. Not you. You. If working in IT, I'm going to assume that you're going to be coming possibly over from the States, Jonathan. In which case, it's similar. Similar in certain ways, subtly different in others. I've just got to reset a few things quickly. Right, while we let them reset themselves, right, behaving itself. IT in the UK. I'm trying to think what the main differences would probably be. I expect the biggest difference over here is there's a lot more competition, especially with things like internet service providers, things like that. There is businesses over here, much like the rest of the world, like to do things on the cheap. But, for example, you have to not just sell what you can do, you have to explain to businesses why going with a big company might sometimes be the right thing for them, versus going with yourselves. Yeah, lower wages, definitely. Around the UFI cameras and Wi-Fi. Need to check external plastic housing before I get the extras. Yeah, I mean, generally my suggestion on that is flex utility. Get the old flex utility if you're looking at, so if you only need a little switch. Flex utility and flex switch. I haven't got one now because my last one I've just taken on site until I get some more in stock, and my only flex switch is actually out in my boiler room powering cameras. Yeah, again, cheap and cheerful, not always the best option, but at the same time, the issue will always be that compared to certain countries and certain areas, we have so much choice. Admittedly, a lot of it runs over the same infrastructure, but we have a lot of choice who provides that. So that's one of the big differences. Our wireless isn't as good as some countries. Oh right, you've peaked the. Oh, just get another one. Just we've daisy chained flexes before. If you could get one, the industrial switch is got quite a bit of clout, but failing that, if you only need, well, it depends how many ports you need. That's the key point. Right, just waiting for a switch to finish factory resetting itself. Yeah, we've daisy chained flexes. In terms of, so we power them with the injectors. So you do lose the injector port and you lose the uplink port, but effectively, You could, I suppose, if you could make one of the bigger injectors fit. Yeah, it's sort of, it doesn't work that amazingly well, but yeah, it's we've daisy chained them to deal with needing. How did we do it? So if you're powering via injector, you lose port one obviously for the injector on each, which is fine if you've got two flex utilities. You just run two powers to a power supply or a source of power. That means obviously port one is used. Port two then you can use, or port four you can use to link between the two boxes. That leaves you or port 5, sorry, you can link between the two boxes. That leaves you with port 1, 2, and 3 at PoE. So you have effectively 6 ports of PoE available, which might be enough, it might not. We've done it. The issue is you only get PoE out of a flex, not PoE plus. So that is the ultimate restriction. It's how much actual power you need to the devices. I haven't got one up here, but yeah, the industrials do, they're okay if you put them in enclosures. They are just damn expensive. Right. That, sorry, just signing into Sophos to... Now I've got to remember which password I use. That one? No. Nope. Maybe that one? No. That one. Get there eventually. Oh, shut up, you. RJ46. You don't know what RJ46 is. You can't remember the last time you plugged a cable in. Saying that, sorry, I know Epoch is he's someone who plays games competitively. He doesn't do it for fun. Doesn't understand fun if there's not competitiveness to it. Yeah, exactly. If it's not in the cloud, he doesn't want to know. The switch I showed you last night, Jack, was the flex. So it's a flex and a flex utility. They're two separate things. Hold on, I'll pull one up. Let's go over to there. And dot store. What's fun? What are these words? Some of you know, some of you don't. Normally, I'm sat most evenings on TikTok going live. I managed to get put in the sin bin on TikTok. That was fun. So you want, if you look in here, we want utility, and these are the two you want here. So it's the flex utility and the flex switch. The flex switch fits inside the flex utility, and the flex utility comes with the PoE injector and the external casing. That's the one that I showed on TikTok the other day doing an install. As you can see, the new and improved Ubiquity site. Right, let me get this set up a second. Well, that's a point. There's a firmware update out, so I'll probably do a firmware update now. Switch. Is that the right port? Which port is the right port? That port. That's the right port. There we go. Retry. Why is that not behaving? Come on. There we go. That's got it. Buzz, buzz. Let's just get all this set up. Excellent. Right, continue. Oh, this is a home. I'm just getting this prepped up, ready for ready to do a video on VLANing with Unify. So I've got a little. It's only a little. It's only the baby 106. Oh, mute word. Lab network. Accept. Network protection. View devices. And that'll do. Grab my home code. You won't be able to use this because it's registered to my account. I'll paste that in there. And we'll let that reboot itself because it's going to. And then we'll start it all over again. It's the joy of the little home codes. And we'll let that churn on through. Okie dokie. Just check everything else. Yes. Make sure there's nothing crazy going on there. Might have to turn the extractor fan on up here in a minute. It's starting to get warm. The world's longest evaluation till 29.99. Don't need to opt into that. Continue. We can leave all this standard. This seems to be what I do a lot now on YouTube, is just set up Sophos XG homes. Um, 172, 16, 16, 16. You know what? You can stay like that for the time being. Don't need to worry about that too much. Did you manage to get some, Mike? I did see one on eBay the other day, and I was watching it. I thought it'd be mean of me to bid on it because I've already got one, but they are starting to appear, which is, again, not a surprise. They just are getting to that age now. The home version, I mean, basically, to run it as a VM, all you need to give it is 4 cores and 6 gig of RAM, and that's the maximum the home can use. If you need more than that, then you have to get into licensing, or you have to just run the evaluation. Yeah, seen plenty of the Rev 2s. Might have a look online in a minute anyway, just see if there's anything popped up. Recipients, me at here.com, sender, me at here.com. Don't need that at the moment because this is only a mess around setup. It's where is it's there. I have seen quite a few people asking about like memory upgrades on them and things like that, but the 135 Rev 3 is going to be an in-demand unit just because it's about the right size for most people for home, especially for labs and with low power usage. The difference obviously between a 200 series and a 100 series is quite significant nowadays. Saying that, I've got 2 300 series running under the desk here as in HA, so, and there's a 400 series on the rack there. We will just let this get itself up to date. I wish I could, well, let's have a, while that's making its changes. We got anything interesting? Plus G. There's a 115. Yeah, these are starting to appear now. Again, the problem with them is the CPUs. They're just not really up to it. The Rev 2s, again, just unfortunately, they're just a bit too old. I have a suspicion that a lot of these Rev 2s are going to fall foul of the Atom bug as well. And a lot of them are being pulled out by companies. Like here, 2 of them for 400 quid. It's, they don't understand. They're not worth, they're worth about 100 quid for the pair. Again, it's because, like that, people have been offering him not a lot for them. People think they're worth money when it's not the appliance that's worth the money, it's the license. And they just don't understand the hardware on these. Unless he says he's got the license. No. If he hasn't got the license, it's just an Intel Atom machine that's worth about 50 quid. It's just nice that they're the Sophos ones because they're actually built to do a job. But at the end of the day, if you don't have the actual original license, they're not worth any money. And with the changes Sophos are making to the licensing, it's going to be an end game for a lot of people who've been sat on them. So if people are sat on them with licenses, as soon as the license becomes active, they count down. Ooh, what's that? Is that a Rev 2 or a Rev 3? That's a Rev 2. Oh, I hope they've not replaced the Sophos with a Sonic wall. God, that's a mistake. Poor company having to deal with that. It's always, again, worth checking the SGs, because the SG Rev 3s are the same. There's another Rev 311. See, yeah, see, this is it. It's like 300 quid, and then they wonder why they're not getting any bids on it. They're absolutely useless, other than for a software firewall, if they haven't got the license. I mean, I've been lucky in the past. I've managed to pick up some absolute bargain devices that had the license. If that's a genuine 125, which it appears to be, they're not too bad. They're only a little under the 135, but again, they've just got slightly too small a CPU. They'll do almost a gig sensibly with IPS, but that's about it. Rev 2s. Yeah, all the Rev 2s. Well, obviously, yeah. Rev 2. As I said, I mean, some Rev 1s. I mean, I've got one of those. I think it's a Rev 2, might be a Rev 3. Oh, it's a Rev 2. I mean, that's a 105, and unfortunately, without a memory upgrade, it's useless nowadays. No, yeah. That is the other problem, that the speed of internet in a lot of countries has jumped so much in the last 5 years that the platforms, yeah. No, they can use. This is where we need Jason with the old Protect Leads to come along. 28 quid for a screen. You just buy an entire thing as a spare. And again, Sophos firewall's always worth searching, because occasionally stuff slips through with people who don't actually know what they've got. I mean, that one. Has it got the license? Doesn't say. Want to zoom in on it? When was it manufactured? May 2020. So that's been sat on a shelf for 3 years. And again, if they don't have the original actual license on it, and again, people ask you money. These are just, the old UTMs are just junk. They just belong in the recycle bin. Red 15s, again, no use to anyone now. I've got a red 50. I could probably get it unlocked by Sophos. But again, they're end of lifing them. Other than looking a bit funkier as well. These are all long since end of lifed. Oh, it's an Astaro. That's an old one. What they look like before Sophos bought them. So I really would like to get hold of one of the bigger SGs. But again, it's just not worth the money. Why are you buzzing away? Something moaning and whinging or dropping on and offline. Let's see, how are we doing? I was updating the firmware. I thought it might do that. Let's let that run. Anything else interesting Sophos-wise on here? No, nothing there. Got too many of them. Excellent. The little box is rebooting, so we'll let that reboot its way around. What's the other one? Let's see if there is any checkpoints. See, that's not bad if it's got the module in it. That is the equivalent, I think, to a 450. They listed its tech specs? I doubt it. But that looks like a normal image. You'd have to ask them whether it's got the actual module in it or not. They're all older checkpoints. That's equivalent, I think, to a 200 series. And that's just overkill. We don't need anything that crazy. As fun as it would be. That's not a bad price, believe it or not, even if it did cost that to get it over. That's a 4-port. That's an odd one. Okay. Well, might be useful if you need SFP ports. But not a lot else. Not a lot else in there. How are we doing? Are we rebooting? We should be. We should have restarted. Right. While that's doing that, hopefully we should have a cloud key. We do. You'll do for now. You can be UCKG2. Proceed without an account. And we'll set that up. What do you mean? Seriously? Yeah, but your MikroTik doesn't do TLS 1.3 inspection. So, nah. Right. Okay. Adopt. Get them adopted in. I mean, I could always fire up the MikroTik, but that would just be dull. Why have dull when you can have fire? Right. Let's just go through and get all these wonderful things set up. Exactly. It does depend on what you want the things to do, but I mean, it could be worse. I could just fire up a pfSense box, because everybody knows pfSense does everything you could ever need it to do, possibly under the sun. It's the fix. It's the cure-all for everything, networking-wise. The amount of times I've seen that as a reply. Oh, I want to replace my BT Home Hub. Use a pfSense box and run it on an old PC. It's like, yeah, no. You can run it on your old machine. It's like, so you can turn a 2-watt router into a 50-watt router that does nothing really spectacularly different. Come on, little machine that can. I think it's still booting everything up and updating everything. What are we? Oh, I didn't look actually. What version of the firmware we're on? Hopefully we're on 0.2. Right. The issue is that most that probably want to move from the do they actually know what they're doing? That's the big problem. I mean, if it wasn't for the lack of throughput, a Draytech would do for most people. I spotted yesterday that Asus successfully managed to brick a load of their routers that have got AI Protect turned on, which was quite amusing. Oh, of course, it's not going to reply because it's updating the firmware on the Switch, which means the Switch is rebooted. But that does demonstrate actually a interesting one. I think you asked me the other day, Jack, about when you do an update on a Unify Switch about PoE. That Switch over there has just done a firmware update. It has got an AP and it has the cloud key PoE powered off, and they stay running. It keeps the PoE running. Just wait for that to finish booting itself back up again. Only 2 days left of my TikTok live ban as well, and then I can start doing some more lives overall. So if I'm not on here, I will be on over on TikTok. I know some people don't like to use TikTok, but it's where it's easier to go live. I've currently been going live on Twitch, and I'm lucky if I get one person chat on like a 4-hour stream. It's horrendous. I might at some point try maybe doing some game streams live on YouTube, possibly. See how that takes off, because the biggest problem with TikTok is the screen size. Adoption failed? Lies. Oh, the ape obviously didn't appreciate rebooting everything all at once. Whoops. That would be because it's still updating. We'll let that have a think. We are on MR2. Good. That's fine. It does. It does generally just work. The fact that I'm messing around with in my normal way of messing around stuff. Generally, you don't slam the adopt button on everything. Starting. There we go. It's IT. It does what IT does. It does silly things when you need it not to, and it works absolutely perfectly most of the time. Most being the operative word. You want Sophos XG firewall. UTM is being phased. Oh, can I not advance the dot? That's new. Shiny. The one you want is ideally actually the firmware installer you want is the either, depending on what you're going to run it on, so you can get them straight for VMware and Hyper-V, or you just want the software installer, which is generally what you use. The latest software version is 19.5.1 MR1. Well, MR2 is out now, so that'll download when you install it. And if you're really bored, you can look at the source code. So the important part is what you do, however, need to do is go and request a home key. So I've thrown some links up actually in my other YouTube videos. What hypervisor are you using? That is the question. What I also find very see, what you need is a giant loft where you can hide servers, and then you can throw them up here and run all the different hypervisors. It's actually cooling down a bit up here, which is nice. The sun must have gone in. Where are we? 6 o'clock. Right. Let's try that again, shall we? Now that it's done the firmware update. It was probably on the most wonky of weird firmwares, that because I have been using this stuff to test. And generally, as a rule, you should adopt the switches and then you adopt the APs. Poor thing. It's going to be going ping straight up above the line saying, oh, there's too much going on. Oops. Hang my pokey thing back up over there again. Any provisioning yet? There we go. All provisioned and online. So you need, if you want to play properly, you could get, ironically, you could actually get yourself just a small little nook or something. One of the nice things on the nooks, and especially if you use something like VMware or Hyper-V, is you can get away with using USB NICs as well. Right. This poor little thing is coping, but it's not the fastest. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame, really. The NUC cluster I do have, unfortunately, doesn't support ESX8, which is a bit annoying. But it's 6th gen i3. Um, and you could actually build a little vSAN cluster out of it. So if I want to do a new vSAN cluster with it, I've got to buy new NUCs, which they're not expensive, but not ideal. It makes the platform a bit less accessible to people, and that's a shame. I haven't renewed my VMUG this year because I just haven't seen the need to do it. But yeah, building. I mean, the NUC cluster it's got on a bit, but it was good, and it was a good way to play with vSAN as well, which is a shame. They've kind of limited what you can do now just by the fact they're putting CPU limits on ESXi versions, and they've jumped up quite a bit very quickly. Right. It's about 300 quid. If you go for like 3 years, it's like 500 quid. Which I wasn't back when I was supporting like a load of VMware infrastructure. It was good value money because it meant I could spin a kit set up here, and it was fine. And you could use everything under the sun. I mean, vSAN is VMware vSAN is a game changer, because unless you have a really sort of specific use case, you can sit with vSAN and it will cope with a good. If you sort of between one and if you put the use cases sort of, and you had extremities of a lot of CPUs and a lot of storage at either end, vSAN sits and consumes like the middle sort of 2/3 quite happily. You can make it works really well in that middle area. I've never played with Horizon, but you do get Horizon as part of it. I'm pretty sure you get Horizon as part of it. Horizon wasn't something I really looked at. Let's call this the VLAN 1. And that needs to be on there. That's default network, and we'll just go add to that. The VMware fault tolerance, yeah. I mean, again, the fault tolerance limits are purely and simply because of the amount of data that it would have to shift around. There's only so much it can physically cope with over networking infrastructure and latency as well. I looked at Nimble. The problem is Nimble got purchased by HPE. Flexible friend. It's a USB-C to 3.5mm jack. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure it was Nimble that got purchased by HPE, and me and HPE don't see eye to eye, so to speak. Yeah, when I say it, when you're dealing with fault tolerance and VMware, it's still sending, it's still having to effectively deal with synchronizing a huge amount. Yeah, the fact, yeah, 10 gig networking for storage, yeah, unless it's a lab or anything like that. But this is for, so you're dealing with fault tolerance on the actual VM with eight cores. The idea is that effectively it's running another machine and keeping it in sync, and they've obviously worked out that above 8 cores they can't probably guarantee to keep it in sync. So it's 25 gig min, but up to 100 gig. I wish I had the money to go 100 gig, but just for fun. But I don't need it. Oh, InfiniBand. I mean, obviously I've got a discussion running over on. I had a discussion running over on TikTok because I was quite disappointed to see David Bombal expelling the virtue that RAID 5 was perfectly okay to use. And when I queried that, I actually got a few people not understanding what the risks are with RAID 5. And then someone came along and said, yes, I had some left-hand storage SANs. And the only thing I've ever heard about left-hand storage is how terribly unreliable it is. And that's a HPE one. Or HP, as it probably would have been. I don't get to deal with anything big anymore, so to speak. It's nice, but again, it's with the push up, it's into cloud. A lot of that infrastructure is either it has shrunk. The demand has shrunk. But I mean, VMware vSAN, when configured correctly, I mean, I've only ever done it all flash as. Oh, no, sorry, I have done a hybrid one. I've done vSAN Robos, and they were hybrid. I don't know if Epoch is still in, Mr. Jim. He'll know about that because we worked together at the same sites for that. But all flash vSAN, we were achieving in certain when we benchmarked it, we could get close to 1 million IOPS. And that was not bad. As I said, it was all flash infrastructure. But again, it's use case. Yeah, this was, I was trying to explain the simple explanation for anyone who rewatches this. It's not that RAID 5 doesn't work. The problem is when RAID 5 has a problem, the issues occur when you've hit a problem with a disk and then you're rebuilding, and the rebuild time on large arrays can take days to weeks, and the chances of hitting another faulty disk in that time is quite significant. It's not huge, but it's significant. Trying to explain that to people when, Mr. Bombal comes out and it had a lovely sponsored by Synology piece that's like, oh, RAID 5, yes, blah, blah, blah. And obviously they're trying to expel that RAID 5 is okay to use in their small and NASes, because obviously that means that people aren't losing sort of, they're telling people they can have all this space, but only with RAID 5. So if they've got 8 terabyte drives and they're losing 2 of them in RAID 6, well, it looks better if they only have to lose 1 of them because they're using RAID 5, but then they don't understand the risks. And that was quite a surprise to me to see that. I mean, obviously the Microsoft learning side of things, so learn.microsoft, and obviously leveraging the free bits of Azure as well is a good way to do it. Yes, but are you running them in RAID 5, Jack? That's the problem, and that's the issue. When you say yes that you are, I will send a remote slap to you. I mean, yes, Synology are locking themselves down because they're trying to grow and they're trying to push themselves up into the bigger markets. But they're also dealing with the fact that they've got a big home lab following, and obviously people with labs like to play and mess, and then they get problems. I mean, we use QNAPs, and you say that to people and they're like, oh, the security issues, and you're like, yes, but they don't impact us in any viable means because we don't expose any of them to the internet. And it's like, oh, but their security posture. It's like, well, the security posture is actually not that bad. Most of the patching they're having to do is because of modules they've used from other third parties. They're not the quickest at it, but they do have a very good website that says we're aware, we're doing this, we're aware of that, and they've picked up the pace. I mean, I've got a QNAP down there, and I've got one in a rack there that's not on at the moment because it had the dreaded atom bug, which a resistor has fixed, but it came off site because it was dead. So I fixed it with the resistor fix. It's up and running, and that's going to be my test bed. Exactly, yeah. I mean, I could probably pick up a couple of old Equalogics from a site. I know where they are. They're just sat on a shelf. They're old PS4000s. But they're just not worth messing with anymore. They require Java 6 to get onto them, which is a pain in the ass. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Synology over it. I mean, it depends on. I suppose it depends on the use case. It's like I see, obviously, again, TrueNAS, TrueNAS Scale, TrueNAS Core. Nothing especially wrong with the product, but again, they've tried to make it do everything to compete with the likes of Proxmox and Unraid. Sorry, what's wrong with what? I've gone around in a circle and I've lost track of what I was talking about. Oh, no. No, it's that's the problem. It's not harder to get it into the system with Java 6. That's the issue. It's a weak point. It also means if you have a problem and you need to fault find, you can't get into fault find because nothing works with it. You basically have to have like a Windows 7 machine running IE and Java 6 to manage your storage infrastructure. And that is a problem. And that, unfortunately, you see these things trying to as much as people like to play. I like to play with stuff, but there's a time and a place when you really do need to say, well, actually, yes, I can play with this, but it needs to be retired into a cupboard in the corner. And that's one of the things. I haven't got anything below Windows 10 here. Well, no, sorry, I lie. I do have some older machines. I just don't use them. I have a Windows. Yeah, I know too. I have a Windows XP machine sat outside, basically out in the storage room, for no other reason than I pulled it off site and I plugged it in to see if it would still turn on. Because again, it was one I built for a client 15 plus years ago. But this is the thing. It's trying to balance out everything. Right, this I believe we are pretty much ready to rock and roll. That's fine. That's fine. That's all up to date. Phew. Right, so we've got all that working. Let's create a couple of VLANs, shall we? Oh, go away, Sophos Assistant. We don't want to use you. Where's the option? Oh, oh dear, Rich. What did you have to go all the way up into Geordieland for? No one should ever have to venture up there except in extreme circumstances. In fact, the last time I went into Newcastle, I was pulling out a network that was a SAP cluster. That never worked again because I never rebuilt the thing. That was on IBM hardware. Right. That's an acceptable reason to go up there. We'll let you off. You are completely forgiven. What was I doing? I was doing VLANs. That's what I was doing. Get that out of the way. Right, add a VLAN on port 1, VLAN ID 100. It can be on there, like that. And we'll just put that back together. We'll add in a VLAN 200. And you can be there like that. I really do need to speak to Sophos actually at some point and ask them to send me a switch. Because I would be very interested to see how Sophos's infrastructure switch-wise, because I've not played with their switching, and yeah, I've played with the APs. I've got an AP. In fact, there's an AP there. And they're not brilliant. They're okay, but they're not brilliant. And finally, let's make you live on there, and you can be on 1.1. Just create a couple of DHCP servers. You can go, don't need you anymore. Right, so once that VLAN done. Oh no, I'm going to need to do some firewall rules, but that's fine. Get all that created in. And that's all the DHCP created. And let's add a network into here. VLAN 100. And we'll give that access to just call it default LAN for now. We'll just add the default LAN in as a rule. Helps if I allow it. Give it a name. Allow VLAN 100 to main LAN to default VLAN. VLAN 100 default VLAN. Allow. Stick it at the top. Graphic to internal zones for the time being. And by default, any of them they've all got internet access. It's fine. And VLAN 100 can ping through to the. So that will do, ready for fun and games. That is all working. Poor little CPU in this thing is probably melting because it's warm and it's sat on top of a switch that's also warm. And we should just have not a lot going on because this thing shouldn't be putting too much over it. Yeah. All is good with the world. And I'm just going to make sure that I've not done anything in here yet. No. So we've got main VLAN, we've got default VLAN. And let's put us in the right country. It's a bit more visible. It's a bit less eye strain on that. I don't need multi-site management, and should be correcting its power to be exactly what it should be, because that is way too high. What's receiving frames from? There's nothing connected to you. That's better. Kind of why our Wi-Fi sucks compared to America over here, especially with the power usage we're not allowed to use. Does that show anything fun in games? No, just says it's there. It's handy. And I've got all my ports. And that's my machine, and that's the uplink. That's fine. All is good. Yeah, we know. Nothing specific or crazy going on. Excellent. Well, that's me all set up ready. I'm going to let it cool down a bit further. I will probably be gaming on Twitch this evening. And let this place cool down, but that's all set up ready. I can now do my VLAN video. Which I've been meaning to do for a while because I keep seeing people asking questions on it. And as much as doing it live is possible, yeah, it kind of makes things a bit less sort of YouTube friendly. So there we go. Right, so I'm going to call it there because I am absolutely dripping up here. It is boiling, and I want to turn the extract back on, and it's noisy and it hums on the mic, which is no good for you guys. So I am going to say thank you ever so much again for joining me. You'll probably find, well, you'll find me here. You will find me more on TikTok because the interaction level on TikTok is significantly higher. But I will still keep trying to do YouTube content as and when time permits. I've just been rather busy with work and setting stuff up for other clients. But on the plus side, hopefully I will have a bit more to show for YouTube. I'm waiting to pick up another MVR so I can have a play with NVR stacking, which is something that people have asked questions on for Unified Protect. I have got a Dream Machine SE here as well to play with for a bit. Again, just to try and demonstrate certain things. But thank you everybody for joining me. I will catch up with you probably next weekend on here. And once I'm back live again, you'll see a lot more live streams of me on TikTok, just answering questions and trying to be useful to people. So until next time, I will catch you all later.